Good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is Friday Eve, and Friday Eve is the most glorious day of the week. Why is it the most glorious day of the week? Because it is webinar day, and I am absolutely thrilled to be speaking with all of you today about selling long-term care for dummies. And I had two people actually get ticked off at me for using the term dummies. They're like, well, I think that's a little disparaging that you're saying long-term care for dummies. Like, dude, it's a play on the books. Do XYZ for dummies or whatever. It's a play on the books. Nobody that I deal with is a dummy. But hey, if you're new to long-term care insurance, then we will talk about long-term care insurance, a long-term care need. And by the way, even if you are a pro, you are in the right place today. This is the most heavily attended webinar that I do. We have so far 83 people on the call, which is pretty good. We have a lot of new friends on the call. We have some friends that have been on a lot of these calls here. I'm not even going to attempt to say hi to the various folks that I know because I'm going to leave a lot of folks out. So folks, in order to segue into this conversation, let's start with a couple statistics. Kind of statistic heavy on the front end, but I think that this will crystallize the need as well as the options to address those needs and how you can make a ton of money in the process. So you're sitting with a 60-year-old couple today, right? That 60-year-old couple has a 91% probability that one of them will ultimately need long-term care, also known as the inability to take care of oneself. Okay, so a 60-year-old couple has a 91% probability that one of them will need long-term care. And what does long-term care cost today, right? Well, first and foremost, what type of long-term care? Let's say in-home care, because that is where a majority of care starts out. As a matter of fact, the largest share of claims with insurance companies in 2023 have been in-home care. That speaks to, this is not nursing home insurance, this is stay out of the nursing home, right? So that 60-year-old today will need $75,600 in today's dollars. But if you inflate that out by an inflation rate of 5%, which is reasonable for healthcare, then that means at age 85, that one person, I'm just assuming one person out of the couple needs care, has a $256,000 per year expenditure, a $256,000 per year expenditure. A female on average is going to spend 4 years under care, although these statistics are conservative, I would argue, which I won't go into. That is over a $1 million expenditure. Very statistic heavy on the front end here, but I want to segue into some housekeeping items. I'll formally introduce myself with that. A 60-year-old today, just assuming in-home care, can very easily have $1 million of expenditures on long-term care, say 25 years from now, right? So might it make sense for that person to pay $7,000? One 60-year-old, it's the female, around $7,000 for a long-term care policy that will cover all of those expenses. Now, naturally, they're both going to get a policy, which is going to be around 14,000 or so, but even 14,000 per year to insure both of them, to wipe out all of that expense later on, using my example here. Of course, they could be in memory care and be in the nursing home for 10 years or whatever, which is becoming prominent. But wouldn't it make sense to look at that $14,000 per year policy, for instance? Man, that's massive. Well, if you think that's massive, how is $1 million? How does that sound to you? It's very costly and it's very prominent. So that encapsulates the need right at the front end. And that, folks, is why we are going to talk about long-term care for dummies today. Because if you're a money manager, know absolutely nothing about life insurance or long-term care insurance, I promise you, you can make a lot of money by partnering with me because I can sell the policies for you. We can talk about the split going forward. I'm going to do a 20% commission split if I'm doing the Zoom calls with you and actually closing the clients. But I tell you, a lot of agents are making a lot of money off of working with me doing those three-way Zoom calls. I promise you, if you have consumers that have assets that will need protected, maybe not to the tune of $1 million, but a couple $100,000, then get me involved because I can help you sell I could sell these products for you. Obviously, I can do the casework for you. And there are three primary types of solutions today. So I'm kind of encapsulating everything on the front end. And then we're going to actually go through the actual webinar. There are no slides right now. We'll get into the slides here in a bit. I talked about the need real briefly, but now what about the solutions? When I'm talking to consumers, by the way, can everybody hear me okay? So whether in the webinar chat, whether in the Q&A, tell me how you're feeling today. Because if you tell me how you're feeling, then I'll know that my audio visual is working, which means I'm not speaking out into the ether where nobody is listening. So in the Q&A pane or the chat pane, can you hear me? How are you doing on this glorious Friday Eve? Before we get into the nitty gritty, we have a quiet group today. Are you guys trying to say something and it's just not popping through or something? A quiet group today. You got to pick it up because you guys are going to participate in this just as much as I am. Then we're going to get into the housekeeping and then we're going to get into nitty gritty. So here are the three solutions. Yes, it sounds like everybody hears me. Three different types of solutions today. And this is kind of my quick, I wouldn't call it an elevator speech or whatever, but when I'm talking with the consumer on a lot of my planning, talking with your consumers many times, if you have me on these calls, I'll say, hey, long-term care is different than it was just a couple decades ago. You really have three primary types, right? Number one is the traditional long-term care. And that's the type to where if you're sitting in a cafe and somebody complains about how they knew somebody that had a long-term care policy and premiums went up and they died and never went to the nursing home and they lost it all. The first type is a traditional type. I would argue they're better today than they ever have been, but you know, it's like health insurance. If you don't use it, you lose it. If you just get hit by an ice cream truck without ever needing long-term care, there's no benefit, even though you paid on average average statistic, around $3,000 per year is what the 2023 long-term care survey said an individual would pay, are paying today on a long-term care policy. And that's based off the average consumer. We'll get into the ages and all that. So that's the first type. The second type is this. Once upon a time, a brilliant insurance company somewhere said this. You know, our life insurance policies, you know, if somebody has, say, a $500,000 death benefit, in order for somebody to get that $500,000 death benefit, you know, it's kind of a tough hurdle to get over for somebody to get value out of that life insurance policy. As a matter of fact, somebody has to go and die in order to get a benefit out of these life insurance policies. So this company, once upon a time, said, wouldn't it be cool if we had an additional trigger to get that $500,000 death benefit? Wouldn't it be cool if you did not have to die to get this this death insurance? No, let's talk life insurance. For instance, you cannot do, this is important. So the dummies for long-term care, those that aren't familiar with long-term care. For instance, what if the person is either severely cognitively impaired, per what the doctor says, boom, they can get their death benefit. Or if the person cannot do 2 of 6 activities of daily living. Wouldn't it be cool if on this life insurance policy, we put that as the trigger? So what you have, and they did that. So what you have today are these combination products, a lot of them being life insurance products. And as a matter of fact, some of these life insurance products, it's not just the death benefit, it's 2 times the death benefit, 3 times the death benefit if you're chronically ill or if you need long-term care, if you need in-home care. When you talk about long-term care, don't talk about nursing homes, at least as far as you can control. Talk about staying in your home as much as long as possible, right? Because that is what people need. It's a bleak conversation to talk about nursing homes. So number 2, life insurance policies. And number 3 is this. Let's say you have a lazy asset. Let's say you have 100 grand sitting in the bank, not getting a good amount of return. Wouldn't it be cool if we can take your 100 grand, turn it into 300 grand for purposes of long-term care in this long-term care annuity? What happens if I never need long-term care? It's in an annuity and it's probably going to grow a hell of a lot better than your certificate of deposit is in your lazy money account in the bank today. 3 different types today, and 95% of the industry today, folks, and feel free to slow me down here because I get passionate about this stuff because frankly, I think it's the biggest missed opportunity that I see. My company's going to do $60 million in annuity business this year. I don't know how many millions in life. I need to look at the updated numbers, and a lot in long-term care. But I will tell you that long-term care of those 3 product lines It's the biggest missed opportunity. I guess I'll ask you, do we have, say, a money manager on the phone that says, you know what, these assets are going to leave my management ultimately, unless maybe I can help these consumers pay for that long-term care that will otherwise siphon off the assets that I would manage. So wouldn't it be cool if I talk to Charlie, we get a long-term care policy for these clients, I keep the assets, I make money here. Wouldn't that be cool? Do we have anybody that thought exactly that on the phone? I'm curious. I have one thumbs up. I don't know. I don't know if that means yes. And then more will probably come in. So it looks like we might have a couple money managers on the phone. Yes. So anyway, 3 different types of long-term care. 95% are these combination products. We'll go deeper into that. The need, the potential solutions, and the solutions are vast. There is no other area in financial services, I would argue, unless you get into, say, the securities world, to where innovation has been as breakneck, so to speak, as the long-term care world. A lot of, just a ton of innovation. And we'll talk about that here. So opportunity is really defined on what is the need and how much of the need is being addressed. Again, opportunity for you, the agents, is what is the need, which is massive. Like I said, 91%, one of a couple, right? Minus how many of those people are actually being helped. That is my definition of opportunity. Nowhere else in financial services, for the most part, are you going to see that gap as wide as what we see with long-term care, right? Less than 8% of people, and this is a couple years old, this is 2021, but nationwide, they do a great job with their studies here, but that's what you see there. 8%, only 8% have long-term care, but one person, not one of a couple, has a 7 in 10 probability that they will need long-term care. So some quick statistics here. And then we're going to get into who is the ideal long-term care candidate, but I want to show you actual industry-wide statistics. So who is the average purchaser? So I know that you're probably joining this webinar like, well, first of all, do I have any clients that will fit this thing called long-term care? Because I'm a dummy when it comes to long-term care. So I'm on the right webinar. So who's the right client? Well, first of all, the average purchaser of a long-term care policy in 2023 was 57 years old. 57 years old. If you look at the percentages with age brackets, let's just call it 55 to 65 years of age is the most popular age bracket for long-term care. By the way, I'm going to purchase a One America policy soon. How old? Do I dare ask you how old you guys think I am? No, that's a slippery slope to go down. I'm younger than I look. I'm 46 years old. People are like, damn, you look like you're 90. That's what the business will do to you. 25 years of being a VP at various insurance companies, on the road, traveling a lot will do that to you. So I'm soon going to buy a One America policy, a combination life insurance / long-term care policy. Lifetime benefits, of course, inflation rider, because inflation is going to be a lot between, say, 40 years from now. You know you're getting old when you start to buy these things that I've been talking about for 25 years. Side note, I just bought an annuity. American Equity said, Charlie, you put in at 46, $200,000. And this is a side note here because I want to plant this seed with you. $200,000, that guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefit will guarantee you and your wife for as long as you live. When you start taking income at age 65, it will guarantee you and her $40,000 per year. So let's see, $200,000 going in today, for $40,000 per year at my age 65, my wife's probably going to live forever. The equivalent return required in my stocks, and because I'm an investment advisor as well, in my stocks and bonds, in order to generate anything close to that, is way beyond anything respectable. Yeah, so that's what I did. So my point is, look at annuities today, if you're not, with guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefits, and then look at these long-term care policies. 57 years old is the average age of a long-term care purchaser. The average premium, a little over $3,000. Talking traditional long-term care. So the first of the 3 buckets here, right? Just like health insurance. The average premium for one person is a little more than $3,000 per year. So a little more than $3,000 per year, but that means, and that's one person, if it's two people because they get couples discounts and stuff, let's call it's around $5,000 for a couple purchasing long-term care. What about the combination products? So Charlie, you mentioned that number 2 where there's the death benefit that they can access, multiples of the death benefit. If they die before needing long-term care, again, there's a death benefit, so it's not a use it or lose it proposition. What's the premium on those bad boys? It's not $3,000 per year per person, but industry average is a little over $6,000 per person. Industry average being our 57-year-old purchaser. So let me ask you a question. I'm going to go to my trusty whiteboard here. When you think of, let's say you call up Charlie because you need an illustration. When we're looking at the benefits, what are you looking for when it comes to life insurance? When you're asking me to quote a benefit, what is it that you're looking for usually with life insurance? It's the death benefit, right? Charlie, I need a $2 million death benefit. Let me ask you this. When it comes to long-term care insurance, and I promise you, this is applicable, this is practical, because 2 times over the last week, I had somebody ask me for kind of the wrong thing, in which I had to clarify. What do you ask for? Do you ask for, hey, we need a total long-term care benefit of, heck, Charlie, you just said $1 million 25 years from now. So do you say $1 million, the total long-term care benefit, or do you ask me to quote you say a monthly benefit or an annual benefit? What is the way to address the need? Is it based off of the benefit as time, the monthly benefit, for example, or is it based off the entire benefit? When it comes to long-term care, and when maybe you ask me to run your first illustration on long-term care, which one is it? Charlie, I need $1 million total benefit with long-term care. Or do you say, hey, I need an $8,000 monthly benefit, a $10,000 monthly benefit? Everybody's coming back with the monthly benefit. So here is why. Because for the most part, the total benefit does matter, but it kind of does not matter. So let me explain here. So here is what a carrier might say. My trusty whiteboard here. Let's say that you have 2 different products, right? 2 different products. And let's just say that they each have a $240,000 total long-term care benefit. Hopefully you can see this. And I'll do 240 over here as well, 240. So 2 different products, $240,000. Now, what does that mean, folks? And this is very, very important. What does that mean? And the clients don't know this. Clients go, so does that mean if I have to go to the nursing home, are severely cognitively impaired, cannot do 2 of 6 activities of daily living, I just get a check for $240,000? No. The carriers would go bankrupt if that's the way that these long-term care policies worked for the most part, right? There has to be a limiter on it. So what insurance companies might say is, oh no, there's a benefit period. There is a divisor that comes into play here. There is remember math back in the day? Remember math when we actually did math versus calculators? Denominator. What is the denominator to all of this? Well, let's talk about this. The denominator is the benefit period. So let's say that this product right here has a 24-month benefit period. And let's say that this product over here has a 240-month benefit period. It doesn't exist, but 24 months over here, 240-month benefit period. All else being equal, which is the product that is the best? All else being equal, a 24-month benefit period or a 240-month benefit period? Which product is the best product? Which product is probably going to be a hell of a lot more expensive than the other one? I'm going to wait for the answers on this one because this is a bit of a tricky one. 240 a month sounds good. That sounds really good. Wow, 240 a month, 240 month benefit period. That sounds great, right? Is that the best one, folks? No, because all that the benefit period is the divisor, the denominator. So 24-month benefit period, which means how much per month is our benefit? Our benefit per month is 10K per month on that one. Your total benefit divided by your benefit period, it's $10,000 per month. Over here in our stupid exaggerated example, 240 months, which doesn't exist, that's only 1,000 per month benefit, right? So the benefit periods, this denominator here, is so that the carriers can limit their exposure on a month by month basis. You know, here with what, only $1,000 per month, the client's not going to be in the nursing home for any more than 2, 3, 4, 5 years. The carrier doesn't have much exposure over the long run, right? To where this. So all of that is to say, number one, when you ask for a quote, whether it's me, the insurance company, or whatever, just know that the total benefit is kind of a little bit irrelevant. That what matters is the monthly benefit. Charlie, I need $10,000 a month or $8,000 per month, or heck, today we know that a nursing home, private room in a nursing home is $9,000 a month throughout the country, $9,000 a month, and I want a benefit period of X months. So 9,000 per month times, say, a 50-month benefit period. That means that that's a $450,000 long-term care pool. Did I just confuse everybody? Or does it make sense? Do you have questions on this? Questions on this? Because I'll talk about clear. Good. By the way, what if pretty much all these policies say, but this $10,000 per month, that's pretty high. That's pretty high. What if you only spent half of that per month, right? Because maybe, maybe you're having your care taken in a Motel 6 or something cheap like that, right? Maybe it's only $5,000 per month. Then what happens? Do you lose that additional $5,000? No, the way that these policies work is then that 10,000, that 5,000 a month that you're taking, it would just last twice as long. It would last 48 months instead of 24 months. So again, I bring all that up because people say, then what the hell is, what's the deal with this benefit period then? If in that case, Charlie, it would be a 48-month, effectively benefit period. Just to allow you to understand that, that the shorter the benefit period is, the better the policy is, all else being equal. But of course, it's more expensive to the insurance carrier. That benefit period is effectively how the carrier limits their exposure on a month-by-month basis. All right, so a couple of questions here. Clear, but this is what makes heads spin with long-term care. Lots of math and moving parts, and most people are bad at math. I agree. In short, what you need to understand, if I were to summarize everything, when you're sitting with the client, it's what type of monthly benefit do you need? What type of monthly benefit do you need? I would say anywhere from $5,000 a month to $9,000 per month. It's just a matter of what is the client's at. Do they want all the risk covered? Did they just witness somebody that had a long-term care event? Very few scenarios have I seen over my 25 years to where somebody just says, I want to buy this policy, or I want to buy that policy. They don't just walk into your office usually and say, I want to buy an XYZ policy. Let me ask you a question. Does that happen sometimes with long-term care? I'll ask you guys and gals. Does that sometimes happen with long-term care to where they passionately say, I want to talk about long-term care. I think I want to buy a long-term care policy. Why is that? Yes, the answer is yes. Why is that? Because usually they or as Tom Hagna would, well, I'll get to what Tom Hagna says in a bit. Because they witnessed somebody in their family, their mom, their brother, their uncle, whoever, have a long-term care event, which is the most devastatingly, financially devastating as well as emotionally devastating scenario in many cases that one can go through. And the instances where I've had that happen, it was because they witnessed somebody go through a long-term care event. Okay, so then the question is how much are you looking at? And you know, if we hear it all the time, Charlie, do you know this is unbelievable? My mom, I got a bill for, take a guess how much, Charlie, just take a guess. And I'm sitting there thinking, what, 8,000 a month, 9,000 a month, 10,000 a month? They come back and say 8,000 a month. That isn't that unbelievable? I said, no, it's not unbelievable. That is average. So for those that have witnessed it, many times they want the whole enchilada covered, right? But at the same time, you can very easily sticker shock them here. So back to statistics. So the average monthly benefit sold in the United States in 2023 was $5,100. $5,100. What was the average duration? What was the average, benefit period? 36 months. So in other words, if I were quoting this, here's what it might look like. You would call me up and say, hey, Charlie, I have a 57-year-old male here. We're looking for $5,000 a month benefit, and let's look at a 36-month benefit period, right? 5,000 a month, 36 months, it's 180,000. Now, what about inflation though? And again, there's a lot here, but I just want you to know the language before we get into this. We'll get into this a lot more than we have. What about inflation? So these products have inflation benefits. We all know that 5,000 today is not the same as, in our example here that I showed you earlier, $5,000 a month 25 years from now. So they will have 3% inflation riders, which takes that 5,000 up by 3% every year. 5% inflation riders. Do you want it compounded? Do you want it simple interest? 3% compounded is the most popular inflation option that is chosen, at least in the year 2023. So those are some quick statistics so you understand the language there a little bit. Here's the thing is state governments are actually starting to mandate to a tiny degree, which I'll explain, starting to mandate a little bit the purchase of long-term care insurance. Let me repeat that. Certain state governments, actually only one, but it'll get bigger, are starting to mandate the purchase of long-term care insurance. Wouldn't that be kind of cool if that happened in your state and you were the guy to help those clients with that long-term care mandate that they have? Yeah. Why is that? Because of these numbers here. Technically, today, as of the end of 2023, the total long-term care expenditures throughout our country was not around $400 billion, which is this chart a few years old. It was around $550 billion. That's what just a couple years does in this, with the demographics where they are today. This long-term care need, it's absolutely blowing the state budgets out. Why is that? Because 52% of long-term care expenses across the country are paid for by Medicaid. It's paid for by Medicaid. So my mom was a nursing home administrator for 30 years, small town, northern Iowa, pretty wealthy farm town. If you've ever been to northern Iowa, you see fields that just go on and on and on and on. It's flat up there. There's not as many creeks and fence lines and stuff like where I grew up in Southwest Iowa. The dirt is black as can be. I mean, I could plant my little marker here in the ground and it's going to grow like a big, beautiful corn stalk. It's like black gold. Naturally, high-end farmland up there. Naturally, a lot of rich farmers. I asked my mom, who is a nursing home administrator for 30 years again, I said, what percentage of your residents are on Medicaid in your facility? Rich little farm town. She goes, about 50%. I said, really? In a little rich farm town, 50% of the residents are on Medicaid. I said, when they come into your nursing home, are they on Medicaid? She goes, oh, no. I mean, a lot of them have a lot of money when they walk into the doors of the nursing home. But you know what? And there are only three ways to pay for long-term care. The second way here is out of pocket. She says, no, they pay out of pocket. They'll pay out of pocket, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 a month. But it doesn't take them long to get down to a level of assets to where they have to qualify for Medicaid. Folks, what's that level? What's the level of assets? What's the level of assets? And just give me your state. I know what it is in Iowa. In order, so you have a gazillion dollars, you spend, you know, the XYZ nursing home, you cut that check every month, which gets expensive. Could be $1 million here. What does that typically have to get down to in order for people to claim Medicaid? No answers yet, but I'll tell you, in the state of Iowa, it's $2,000 for one person. It's $3,000 for a couple as countable assets. Countable assets, which I won't go into the differences between that and non-countable. So let's see. You mean to tell me that you have somebody worth, you have a bunch of farmers worth millions of dollars, certainly hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're spending all their money down to only $2,000, $3,000. Then they go on Medicaid. Yeah. That's one of the disasters. That family farm that had been been in the family for generations and generations. That's a horror story for these farmers that wanted to pass that on to their kids, right? So you have out of pocket, then it goes to Medicaid a lot of times, and then you have private insurance, of course, of which the population, this says 9% is covered by private insurance, but 8 or 9%. And as I say here to consumers, so this is the consumer webinar part that I do here. Last month, all of our agents at CG Financial Group, not all of them, I invited all of our agents to invite their clients. We had a ton of clients on our long-term care call. And that's what I told them. I said, there are only 3 different ways to pay for long-term care: private insurance, out of pocket, and Medicaid. By the way, generally, does Medicare cover long-term care? Does Medicare cover long-term care? Because a lot of people believe that. Some of the people, well, yes, it does. Said it's a rounding error what they do cover, as in the first 20 days, maybe, possibly. You know, they'll cover the first 20 days. That is, if you spent at least 3 days getting skilled care in a hospital, but it's all a rounding error. Medicare effectively does not pay for long-term care. So here is, anybody confused on anything so far? Because I get to going with some of this stuff and I go a little fast here, because I want to talk about what the states are looking at doing here and why. If let's see, so we have a couple. California temporarily doesn't care, but the estate recovery provisions still apply. Estate recovery. So when you go, so I get this question occasionally. When one goes on Medicaid, and I do some Medicaid planning, just so you know, I had this cheesy sales guy that frankly I never really liked, to be quite frank. On LinkedIn, he's always trying to sell something. I believe in you provide value, then ultimately the rest will come. You try to help people and ultimately the money will come, right? But everything is a product that he wants to sell. But I had posted something like, hey, you know, when you go on Medicaid, well, first of all, here's a strategy to go on Medicaid. You didn't plan, you never got long-term care insurance. Now you're on your way to the nursing home. Here's a strategy to get approved for Medicaid pretty quick. And I laid out an example. And then I also mentioned, however, you know, when this person passes away, or if they're married, it's after the later of the two pass away, the state will generally recover. A lot of people don't know this, will recover what it is that you owed them from the estate. They'll recover. This is called estate recovery. But then I said, but that's where a trust can come into play. And this guy said, are you kidding me? Medicaid planning? Are you kidding me? You're not selling long-term care insurance? Are you kidding? Medicaid planning? Dude, I've gotten so many clients and families of clients doing the Medicaid planning, understanding it's not a long-term care alternative. Medicaid and helping them get on Medicaid is the last result. It's because they did not plan. They didn't listen to you 10 years ago. So this guy on LinkedIn is basically saying I should go back to that client whose family is devastated and say, I told you so. I told you so. You know, your wife had a stroke. You guys are now going to be destitute, but I told you so. No, I'm not going to help you with Medicaid planning. I mean, it's crazy, but Medicaid planning is a big deal here. Now, states do not like the notion of having to pay for all this. So here's what Washington did. So the state of Washington back in 2021 said this, and this might be coming to a state near you. Washington said, hey, you need to have long-term care because we're sick of, again, we're sick of paying for your care. So here's what's going to happen. So by November, whatever it was, November of 2021, You have to have your own long-term care policy. You have to have bought your own long-term care policy, or else there is going to be a payroll tax of 0.58%. And what that payroll tax will purchase, somebody in here said it's a joke. And it is a joke. That 0.58% payroll tax will buy you a long-term care pool, of guess how much? $36,500. Not per year, $36,500. So but again, you're exempt from this payroll tax, assuming if by this deadline you have your own long-term care policy. And the deadline was November. What happened to the sales in Washington? What happened to you if you were an agent in the state of Washington when it came to long-term care sales? Boom, they exploded, which is kind of a cool thing. Looking back in 2021, 61% of our country's long-term care policies were written in the state, the relatively small state of Washington alone. And that's called the Washington CARES Act. Now, there have been some learnings from that. A lot of those policies lapsed because Washington didn't mandate that they stay on the books, go figure, which is a reason why a lot of the carriers in Washington said, no, we're not taking any more policies. Plus, we have actuarial concerns, as in the client gets in, the deadline comes, and they lapse the policy. That's kind of what happened. But anyway, states to watch are California, New York, Pennsylvania. The ones in blue are the ones that you should really pay attention to, at least at my last check. Some of them have feasibility studies going on. They have committees that have been designed to assess, the success or lack thereof in Washington. So consumers today, the demographics are demanding. They're demanding that you look at long-term care insurance if it's not a part of your practice. This year, the youngest baby boomer turns age 60, right? 2 years from now, in 2026, the oldest baby boomer turns 80. So as we look at those numbers, it's only skyrocketing up. I don't know about you, but certainly me versus, say, 30 years ago, the talk about long-term care, nursing home care, in-home care. And granted, I'm older. I didn't pay attention back then, but it certainly just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger every year that I go by. You hear more instances of it happening. So here are by the way, and estate planning is also long-term care planning. Estate planning is also long-term care planning. On November 5th, I'm doing one of my national webinars, right? You call into me, you get your registration link so I can peg your clients to you. You send out that registration link. And on, did I say November 5th? December 5th, if I said November 5th. On December 5th, I'm going to talk about estate planning, which is partially long-term care. But I'll talk about revocable trusts, durable power of attorneys, pour-over wills. But the end goal is to get the clients to come back and talk with you, to schedule a meeting so that you can talk with them about some of these strategies, of which long-term care is going to be a part of it. So who are the ideal long-term care candidates? I would say those 50 years of age to 80 years of age. 80 years old, what do you have, Charlie, that an 80-year-old can put their money into? We have stuff. That annuity, the client has a $200,000 certificate of deposit, not earning anything. We can move that over into something that'll give them $600,000 as a long-term care benefit, and probably a higher interest rate because it's an annuity at its core. But you've just tripled the client's money for long-term care purposes. That goes up to age 80. But I'd say ages 50 to 80. Though, and I'm going to contradict myself here in a bit because I originally typed this up a while back, but then I came back and I said, no, I'm going to purposely contradict myself to the audience. So what do I mean by that? Those with enough assets, I would say a few $100,000 to be concerned about losing them, but not so much in assets that long-term care expenses would be a small expense. Do you guys agree with that last statement that I made there? Don't talk to the people that have so much in assets that long-term care expenses are not going to make them destitute. Do you guys agree with that statement that I made there once upon a time? No. Good, because I don't agree with my own statement either. Um, I have a client who could buy the nursing home. He can buy the nursing home. He's got like $20 million in assets with me. I manage on my investment advisory side. I, I do my own personal production, small group, not proactively, but it's my small group of kind of higher net worth clients, family, friends, stuff like that. I have a guy who could buy the nursing home, but he looked at this stuff. How did this person get rich? Because he understands leverage. He understands that we all have pockets of money that each have their own objective. And hey, if I could take this pocket of money right here, this $300,000, and immediately triple it for purposes of long-term care, because I do indeed believe, as I told him, I said, now, if you know 100% that you're not going to need long-term care, then obviously, there are better places for your money. He says, no, I believe 100% I'm going to have long-term care. Okay, then this leverage here. So he moved it over to an annuity, has a long-term care pool of $900,000. But if anything ever went haywire in his business or what have you, it's an annuity. He can cash out what he put in plus what it grew to. If it's still within the 9-year surrender charge period, there'll be surrender charges there. But he got rich because he understands leveraging money. So if in each pocket, retirement expenses, death insurance, right? Life insurance, long-term care. If we're leveraging our money in all these pockets, we're doing pretty dang good. And that is how he got rich with that mindset. Anybody that understands leveraging money by using insurance, those that have experienced the big one here. I don't know if there are lists out there. If so, I'd like to find it. Somebody who recently witnessed somebody in their family have a long-term care event. I'm sure there are ways to get that in a roundabout way, but yeah, these are the ones that come in and say, hey, I need this or I need that. Business owners that love tax deductions. Here's the problem with standard deductions being so high anymore, right? So standard deductions are so high that nobody itemizes their deductions anymore. So what does that mean? It means that unless you itemize your deductions and then actually have health expenses above 7.5% of your adjusted gross income, another hurdle to get over, then you cannot, as a person, as an individual, you cannot write off your long-term care premium as a tax deduction, right? Can most business owners write off their long-term care premium as a tax deduction? The answer to that question is heck yes. Why is that? Because like me, I'm an LLC. So forget the if I do standard deduction or itemized deduction. Above the line, my business expenses are reflected on my personal tax return. Again, above the line, whether I itemize or deduct or not. And there is no 7.5% adjusted gross income threshold to get over, right? That is an employer paid health expense as far as my taxes go. Now, can I deduct all of it? No, there are tables based off of my age. Now, C corporations can deduct all of it. But me as an LLC, you, if you're a sole proprietor, you can do this. You, if you're a partnership, you can do this up to a certain level. And those are published by the IRS every year. We can talk more about that if you like. Business owners that love tax deductions. That's right, Chris. Yes, or at least a portion. So here's a definition of long-term care, just real quick. Long-term care, by the way, you know what? I didn't even mention this at the outset. Seminars. We have a seminar system here. This is like when you're watching something really good and then they say, but let's take a break. And then it's the commercial. But no, this is serious here. So tonight, I'm going to get a workout in right after this, going to grab lunch. Then I'm off to Carroll, Iowa. Why is that? Carroll, Iowa, little town. This will be our third seminar there. Is Nick on, by the way? Nick, Carroll has 20. Yeah, Nick's on. Carroll has 27 confirmed. So Nick, my guy Nick here, paid $1,000. $1,000 for us to market to this small town. Small town. If you're in a big city, go to the smaller towns outside. They're pretty much untouched, let's say. Maybe an Edward Jones guy in the area or whatever. Carroll, Iowa, he spent $1,000 we got 28 registrants, which is actually on the low side because this is our third or fourth time in Carroll. So that comes out to be around $35 per registrant. He has 27 confirmed that he called out to. And that's our Social Security seminar. I have my guy, Jeff, who has his seminar tonight in Raleigh, North Carolina. Spent $1,000, has 45 registrants. So dude, these seminars, the seminar system, it works. Whether it's long-term care, Social Security, we have the ability to get you in front of people here. But anyway, here's long-term care. It is a care that you may need if you are unable to perform ADLs, activities of daily living, on your own. That means things like eating, bathing, dressing, transferring, and using the bathroom. There's one more that they're missing there. Continence, maintaining your bladder, maintaining your bowels. That is the foundation of long-term care policies, those 6 activities of daily living. The trigger is pretty much the same for the most part with every long-term care policy, pretty much. You have severe cognitive impairment, that's a trigger, or you cannot do 2 of those 6 activities of daily living. Now let's take a bunny trail here on an important topic. Do all carriers, Chris, doesn't matter. Do all carriers pay out the benefit the exact same? Do all carriers pay out that long-term care claim the exact same? Some of you know what I'm referring to. No, I'm getting a lot of no's. No, 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 no. So, all right, so I have severe cognitive impairment, or I can't do 2 activities of daily living. My $10,000 per month is triggered, or is it triggered? It depends. So let me explain. There are 2 different ways that carriers pay out claims. One is called reimbursement. And what does that mean? It means that although my benefit on the policy is $10,000 a month, if I only have, like I said, the Motel 6 nursing home, if I have care that only takes up $5,000 a month, then that's all that provider is going to be reimbursed. It's not like I get a check for 10 grand. No, that provider is reimbursed $5,000. That is reimbursement. But then there's also indemnification. All else being equal, which it's usually not equal. You know, one of my favorite companies is my favorite company with long-term care is One America. And I'll tell you that not all else is equal. One America is a reimbursement company, what I just explained, but they have it down. They have, you know, as far as waiver of premiums and everything, they're just a clean, good company. But like One America or I should say, they are a reimbursement company. Indemnification companies like Securian, like Nationwide, for instance, they'll cut you a check, $10,000. In our example, $10,000, they cut you a check. Oh, your care was only $5,000. Well, here's $10,000. What does that also mean? It also means that, you know, if you have somebody that is not a formal caregiver as well, that you could have family, friend take care of you. And One America recently just announced that up to 75% of the monthly benefit can be used for informal. It's a cash benefit. And there's some more details around that I won't get into here, but just know, you know, all these bells and whistles, pulleys and levers, there are 2 different ways that long-term care policies pay out generally. The big statistics, the middle one here. So my dad, and many of you have seen me write about my dad. I'm a lot of good and bad of who I am today because of my dad, the work ethic and all that stuff. You just digging ditches when you're freaking 16 years old and pouring concrete and jackhammer and stuff. It teaches you that the rest of this stuff, it's not easy, but it teaches you how to work, right? But my dad, big, tough construction worker mindset, you know the type. Imagine sitting down with somebody like my dad or any other big, tough farmer or construction worker that you know, and talking with him about how he may need care someday, right? Hey, you may not be able to take care of your family. Heck, they may need to take care of you unless you buy a long-term care policy, right? It's a story that usually does not go very well. But my dad, if that conversation had ever come up, he would, oh, I'll never need care. Or, oh, that gun on the wall over there, that's my long-term care policy. It's never, ever, ever, ever. No, basically what that's doing is that, because that ain't going to happen. Okay. You're not going to shoot yourself. What's going to happen is you are going to need care, right? We are going to need care. I used to think that I was indestructible, right? No, I can no longer jump playing basketball like I used to. And I'm only 46. Wait till I'm 86. Most of us that are smart, we learn as we get older. We're not indestructible, right? But no, what you are doing, Dad, is you are basically just shifting the responsibility by saying no over to those, my mom, maybe me, maybe my brother, to those that are ultimately going to have to care for you. And when you look at the caregiver statistics, 63% of caregivers use their own retirement and savings to pay for the care of you. That's basically what that is. That's shifting. Now, if I were an agent talking with a consumer, would I ever have this type of conversation? No. It's me talking with you fine folks about that's what it is. It's shifting the responsibility. We all know those types of people, but ultimately there comes a time to where, well, we can't take care of ourselves. And there are different types of care. Most of these policies are pretty robust as far as, again, kind of, many of you know this, but for the dummies, so long-term care dummies, yeah, you're talking about the nursing home, but will it also cover in-home care? First of all, you shouldn't be talking all about nursing homes, but yeah, for the most part, in-home care, assisted living facilities, et cetera, et cetera. Those are all covered pretty much the same way. Some policies have cash benefits, for instance, to get them through the 90-day elimination period, which is commonplace in the long-term care world, right? That's actually the most common elimination period, 90 days. So a benefit doesn't kick in for 90 days then, right? Well, yeah, but there can be some cash benefits on these policies. But the venues for being taken care of they're all pretty standard, as in pretty much everything. Now, this is a little bit back to my commentary on in-home care. Nationwide does a lot of studies, psychological studies, study groups where consumers have their turn dials, like the political stuff, and they will find what resonates. And this isn't breaking news by now. Don't start with the words long-term care. Don't start with nursing home, right? The first two kind of bullet points there. It is about staying in your home as long as possible. Why is that? Because again, 73% of claims start in the home. Naturally, I don't want to be taken care of, but if I need to be taken care of, then I'll have somebody come to my home. I think there's enough said on that. As far as average expenses, I mentioned this earlier. I had said that $6,300 a month or $75,000 a year, roughly. That's in-home care there. You go down to a private nursing home, it's almost, I said $9,000. It's actually closer to $10,000 a month. And that's actually wrong. These are 2023 numbers there. I need to update that 2021, 2023 there, but call it $10,000 per month. Here is what, and by the way, if you want to scan this on your phone in your area, then we're going to get into some quick products here that I think you're going to like. If you want to scan this on your phone, what this does is it provides you with an app, a nationwide app. And Nationwide, I like them, but they're not my top carrier. One America is when it comes to long-term care. But you can get the app and it'll tell you in your location, what is the care cost when it comes to informal care, in-home care, nursing home, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, you can scan that on your little camera or put your camera up to it. You'll see it. Then it'll take you to the app. Get that. So that's kind of cool. So I want to mention something to you. I'm doing a lot, and then we're going to get into the products here. I'm doing a lot of three-way calls. And for the folks that haven't done this yet, I'm going to start asking for 20% commission splits just because there's only one of me and they're working. My close ratio is like 80 to 90% maybe. You make money when you have me on these three-way calls. This is incorporating long-term care planning into retirement income planning. Somebody comes to you and says, hey, I have a $500,000 portfolio. What's my number? I want to retire a couple years from now. What's my number? How much can I spend in retirement and not run out of money? And what we do is we help them identify their number. That's the blue box. But I also say, however, You optimize your Social Security, click here. You add an annuity, click there. What happens to their number? Here we were able to get them a lot higher of a number. So now your lifestyle has increased, improved by 28%, right? And this is the way we map out how your spending goes over your retirement years. That little green bar there, that's the annuity income. We introduced annuity income. Here is where I will always say in this retirement income plan conversation. So the process is this. You take a piece of paper, send it to your client and say, hey, I want to do a retirement income plan with you. Me and my partner, Charlie Gipple, we want to do a retirement income plan. Fill out this paper. Maybe they did a Social Security seminar and heard you to where this is a call to action. Fill this out. Charlie and I are going to do a call with you. I input all that information into the system, map out their retirement income, what their number is, and how we made it larger. But Mrs. Client, this is really, really conservative here. Why is this conservative? Because you're going to have a long-term care bump later on. What's a long-term care bump? It is this. It is you're probably going to have a multi-$100,000 expenditure later on. And you know what? If you were to budget for that today, your number drops down to a heck of a lot lower than where it is. But you need to budget for it today. However, instead of spending from your various retirement accounts here, all those different colors to pay for that giant spending hump that 91% that has a 91% chance that you or your spouse are going to have, what if we did this? Instead of drawing down your retirement assets, what if instead we had a beautiful purple bar that took care of all that? And what does that do to your number overall? It dropped down to like 60 grand before, but now it's up a lot. Why is that? It's because paying for long-term care insurance is better than just keeping your money invested. That is the leverage power of long-term care. That is trading the premium that I built into the system for that huge benefit that will more than likely probably happen later on in life. What that does is not only does it crystallize an annuity sale, not only does it help the client understand that you're a planner, not a product seller, it also crystallizes the long-term care sale. All right, so let's go into a couple different examples here of products, then we're going to get off. Might be about 5 minutes late. We're going to get off about 5 minutes late, which is common if you're on my webinars. I just need to be more strict with my commentary. All right, so yeah, again, as we started, 3 different types of long-term care policies. Traditional, as I talked about, but about 95% of the business today is the combination life long-term care and the combination annuity long-term care, right? So the right 2 boxes today are about 90% of the 95%, actually technically around 96% of the business. So you call me up, you say, hey, I'm sitting here with a male age 60. We need $5,000 a month benefit, which that's about average, right? That's about average what I said the industry was selling in 2023. All right, well, let's look at this product here. First of all, what is a long-term care benefit trigger? I mentioned this a few times, unable to perform 2 activities of daily living or dementia. And dementia means long nursing home stays, memory care units. That can be financially devastating. Let's say you say, hey, run $5,000 a month for 48 months. Well, you don't have to be a mathematician to figure that's 240 grand total pool, right? So I have everything that I need almost. You say, however, let's attach a 3% inflation benefit, which means that their monthly benefit and their total benefit increases by 3% per month. So I ran this based off of the industry's most popular options here. Benefit settings, again, the full enchilada there. What's the death benefit? This is the big one, right? It's a use it or lose it proposition. This is traditional long-term care. Option 1 is traditional long-term care. Then we're going to go into the hybrid stuff, the sexy stuff, I think, here. The death benefit 0. Well, what's the premium on this? I send you back your illustration. And on this one, it's around the industry average. Go figure, right? We're using all averages here. $3,100 per year. But as I say, you're trading $3,100 per year for a high probability of getting 240,000, 300,000. You don't need a financial calculator to tell you that's probably a pretty good tax-free return on your money. Unless you know you're not going to go to the nursing home, then I would say just don't bother with it. But I don't know that. You're right. Nobody knows that. All right. So here's a male and a female, both needing, again, the same $5,000 per month. $5,000 per month. What's the benefit trigger on this long-term care life insurance hybrid product? The same, 2 activities of daily living. What's the benefit period on this one? I went 66 months. This one kind of has some weird periods here, which comes out to a benefit of $333,000. I didn't put inflation on this one. Benefit settings the same. Death benefit, $166,000. So One America has this chart, and it looks like this. It looks like this, and here's the way I explain it. Hey, for $6,000 a year, both of you have a life insurance policy, right? A joint survivorship life insurance policy, which means if either of you, or if both of you rather, get hit by a bus without ever needing care, 166 grand goes to a beneficiary or beneficiaries. But that's when I tell a story. Once upon a time, a company said, wouldn't it be cool if that face amount, which is also a fancy way of saying the death benefit, if the death benefit can be accessed for long-term care? Yeah. So that's your long-term care benefit, but not just that. This actual product will give you double what your death benefit / face amount is when it comes to long-term care. And this is all one big pool that you and your spouse can tap into. Again, there's a 91% probability that one of a couple will need it. And it's very possible that both of a couple will need it. So that is what a combination. And by the way, that $6,000 premium, it's guaranteed. No ifs, ands, or buts. It won't change. It's guaranteed. Guaranteed benefits, guaranteed death benefit, not a use it or lose it proposition. The annuity. Here's the annuity, a typical portfolio, not a typical. This is a little higher end, right? This person has a little over $1 million here, but hey, has some lazy money. This is the third type, annuity combination. You know, this 200 grand at the top here, it's lazy money. It's not earning much. What if we took that $200,000 and put it into this annuity? This annuity is going to do better probably than what the certificate of deposit was doing before, 4.5% interest rate. So that's good, but that's not the main thing. The main thing is this. Wouldn't it be cool if they had a benefit of $600,000 for purposes of long-term care? So 2 activities of daily living. What do you access? You don't access your 200 grand. You access the 600 grand, if that makes sense. All right, qualified money, last one here. Qualified money. Let's say that somebody is 401k rich, but everything else poor. They have $1 million in a 401k. Folks, let me ask you a question here. Then we're done in 3 minutes. Can you take pre-tax money and purchase a long-term care policy in general? Can you take pre-tax money and purchase a long-term care policy in general with the way that taxes work? In general, no. In general, no. Why? Because ultimately the long-term care benefit's going to be tax-free. So how can you put in something? This is not like a health savings account, right? You can't put in pre-tax money if it's ultimately going to be tax-free. So what do we do if somebody's 401k rich, but poor everywhere else? There's a way. So what if we said, you know what? Let's look at One America. Let's take $200,000 of that 401k plan. Here's what we're going to do. On day one, even though it looks like one product, it's going into an annuity that immediately gives a 25% bonus. So 200,000 turns into $250,000. Okay, well then it's an annuity. What happens with that? Well, that 25 times 10, $25,000 per year is systematically paid into a long-term care life policy like what I just showed you. So over a 10 pay, that life policy, like what I just showed you, is getting $25,000 per year. Now, folks, do you think that $25,000 income from the annuity, is that taxed every year for 10 years, that 25 grand? Is it taxed? Yes or no? Yes, it is. That's the reason we have the annuity, to turn it into after-tax money. But for those that like the Roth IRA conversion concept, this is kind of what you're doing. You are turning pre-tax money into after-tax money, which ultimately, for long-term care purposes, will be no taxes, right? So what does that $25,000 per year buy? You can see here 25,000 going in. It buys a death benefit that levels off at 285,000. So $200,000 from the 401k is going to buy a 280, and there are reasons why it starts high and then decreases. I won't go into here. But let's just call it a $300,000 death benefit. But most importantly, that $200,000 bought a $571,000 benefit. Now, as I said, but what's the benefit period? I have 48 months in this, right? So if you divide this by 48 months, you have a $12,900 a month benefit that client will be getting. $11,900 per month benefit. So you traded $200,000 your 401k. Yes, you had to pay taxes 1/10 at a time for 10 years, but you traded that 200 grand for almost a $600,000 benefit. Even those that are 401k rich and everything else poor, you can help, folks. Just call me up, ask for an illustration. Hey, fill out the evaluation that's going to pop up here in like 10 seconds. Fill it out. Tell me how we did. Tell me if you want to get appointed with any of these carriers. I'm off to the weight room, and then I'm doing a seminar with my guy, Nick, in beautiful Carroll, Iowa. Guys, gals, I appreciate it. I will talk with you later. It's popping up here in about 10 seconds.